Hello and welcome to Fresh Fare. My name is Michaela. I'm joined by my teammates, Allie, Stacy, and Christine, representing the School of Public Health, the School of Natural Resources and Environment, and the Ross School of Business, with professional experience in entrepreneurship, nonprofit, consulting, and the U.S. military. Fresh Fare is tackling the problem of lack of transportation to healthy and affordable food. Now, in places like Detroit and similar cities, you have a roster of unreliable transportation for people like Michelle, one of 14% of Americans that lack access to food. They're insecure in their access to healthy and affordable food. Fresh Fare is connecting the dots between existing infrastructures of grocery stores and rideshare companies to provide convenient and affordable rides to and from the grocery store. Fresh Fare will utilize an app to reach our customers. Let's take an example. Michelle, she's a Detroiter, and she's a recipient of SNAP benefits or food stamps. She heard about the Fresh Fare app 2 weeks ago from her pastor, and she downloaded it to her smartphone, and this is her homepage. When she first went onto her homepage, she went to the settings, where she inputted the Fresh Fare promotional code for Detroit, FF Detroit, which links to the participating grocery stores and rideshare companies in her area. Next, she went to the payment page, where she has 2 options. She can input her credit card information, or for customers who do not have a credit card, she can go to a participating store and put a credit towards Fresh Fare. Now she's ready to schedule a ride. She goes back to her home page, clicks Schedule a Ride, and it takes her to the participating rideshare companies in her area, and she chooses Uber. Next, she can set her pickup location, and finally, where she wants to go. In this case, she wants to go to Meijer on 8 Mile. The final page is a confirmation, and it confirms who's picking her up, where they're picking her up, and where they're taking her, and it will give her an estimated cost of what she will pay after a 50% subsidy that is covered by the Fresh Fare model underwritten by grocery stores. We're also looking to develop technology that is compatible with a call center and SMS text for those customers who do not have access to a smartphone.
How do we know this will work? Before we created this solution, we talked to experts from government, academia, the nonprofit sector, and industry. We wanted to get a thorough understanding of the real problems causing food insecurity. We learned that there were 3 mainly: poverty, unemployment, and lack of transportation. Every single person we talked to mentioned insufficient transportation as a barrier to access to healthy food. So much so that people can't even get to free food from food banks and food pantries in order to get, because of inaccessibility to transportation. To test the idea that we were working on and to learn more about this problem, we ran a short pilot in Ann Arbor and then a longer pilot in Southwest Detroit. We partnered with an independent local grocery store. What did we learn from this pilot? First, there's a market for Fresh Fare. Everyone we talked to said that they would have paid to go to and from the grocery store. Everyone also said that they spent more that day because they knew that they were going to get a ride home. Second, there is a preference for Fresh Fare. People will pay a premium for transportation that is reliable, convenient, and professional. And finally, there's a need for Fresh Fare. People really struggle getting to and from the grocery store when they don't have a car and don't have reliable access to public transportation. That's why Fresh Fare is debuting in Detroit, where there are 150,000 residents who average an $18 million in their SNAP benefits where they spend on groceries. Over 12 months, that's $216 million in grocery store revenue. If we can capture 10% of that market through our solution and move that spending from places that are convenient but don't necessarily offer the variety and healthfulness that a grocery store can, that's $21 million in new annual revenue for grocery stores. That's not just in Detroit, by the way. That there are 30 million people in the United States who live in low-income neighborhoods, a mile or more away from a grocery store, and who don't have access to cars. We have thought through 2 potential monetization strategies. Both of these are coming through us to have supermarkets fund the half of the ride for the customers. What we think is important to know is that grocery stores have a really big incentive to use our service to help get customers into their stores. We're going to test these monetization strategies in the pilots that we have coming up this year. We have a really exciting year ahead. We can't wait to get started. We have secured a spot in the Law Entrepreneurship Clinic and are in the process of incorporating our business right now. We've secured $4,000 from Meijer in order to run a pilot at their Detroit store in April. We're going to use what we learned from that pilot to fine-tune our technology and design, nail down the right monetization strategy, and we'll have 2 members of our team working full-time over the summer to grow our business. After securing more investors in the fall, we plan to launch fully in 2016. In order to do that, we're going to need some help. We have a Jumpstart grant to cover our operations right now. The $4,000 from Meijer is going entirely to cover the pilot that we're running with them in April. And we're going to use the rest, the $10,000 to fine-tune our technology based on what we learned from that pilot, nail down the right monetization strategy, and do an evaluation to make sure that our product is really impacting the lives of the people who need us the most. Someone who knows a lot about that need is Rachel Chatterton-Bear. She's a director at Fair Food Network, which is a nationally recognized advocacy and programming organization that deals with food insecurity in America. She sees Fresh Fair as an important partner in resources for the kinds of initiatives that Fair Food is heading up. Executives at Meijer have also shown that they believe that Fresh Fair brings important value to their business and to the communities that they serve. When we met with Janet Emerson at their headquarters in Grand Rapids, she told us that she thinks that we're onto something, and we hope you do too. Thank you.
So one of my favorite parts of this pitch were the pilots and the fact that you actually have somebody who spends money. Because that's when you know that you have a good idea and people pay for it. I'd like to understand how this price breaks down. So somebody gives you $1 for food. Like how much goes into the car, you know, dropping off the food? How much do you take? How much goes towards the food? I'm just trying to understand. I'm having a hard time getting the ratios down.
Okay, so the breakdown is that the supermarkets will buy into Fresh Fair, so they'll give a certain amount of money, and that's what's covering the subsidy for the rides. So the customer will pay for a portion of their ride, up to about 50% for people that are on SNAP benefits, and we'll work through that scheme when we run our pilot. But they pay for that ride to the store, about 50%, and then the grocery store would cover the other 50%. Is that answering your question? Yes, and then so the 2 monetization schemes that we had up there, one was a subscription and one was a buy the ride. So the grocery stores would pay and they would cover the cost of the rides as well as on top of that for Fresh Fair to subscribe to Fresh Fair, or another model is the scaling out version of having it buy the ride.
I have a question. So it's a really good presentation, and I do like the idea. I have a question though. I want to go back to like the original design thinking, like when you were scoping out the problem. So I see the problem's clearly identified, which is great. But when you then started iterating around solving for the problem, at a glance, when I think about this, I would think like it would be more efficient to send one car to deliver to many people in a neighborhood, maybe they order online or something like that, versus you took a different approach, and this is a really obvious thing I just said, so I'm sure you balance that with other considerations, so I'd just like to hear what those are.
Yeah, so actually there are already models out there in other cities that do a grocery, like there's Uber that pilots with another grocery subscription service that they deliver, and the things that we saw in that when we inquired about that is people actually want to go to the grocery store. They want to pick out what they want. They want to do for themselves. So it gives them independence.
They're also paying a really high premium to get there, right? To get this service. Yeah. So through ours, there wouldn't be a high premium.
You had some, a nice touch was having the testimonials from the folks who were both a national expert as well as the grocery chain you're working with directly. That was a really nice touch and showed value and buy-in. What about testimonials and experience of the users themselves? How many repeat customers did you have who picked up your service and said, boy, I really like this, I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, definitely. So unanimously among both the pilots, all of them said that they would use the service again, that they would recommend it to friends. People who you wouldn't think would have money to spend on this said that they would spend money on this, that they would spend upwards of $10 one way for a ride, which far exceeds what the averages would be for a 50% subsidy. So overwhelmingly great feedback from the pilots. Additionally, 80% of them had smartphones, so that was a barrier that we were initially worried about. But every single person said that not only would they use it again, but they knew every person in their block that would use it.
So I don't know a lot about grocery stores. The one thing I know is supposedly their margins are very, very, very low. So my question is, how many supermarkets, first of all, that was awesome. Let me start by saying that. How many supermarkets do you think there are in the areas that you're talking about that have margins that could sustain this? And or budgets that they've set aside for community development or some other, did you canvass supermarkets to try and get a sense? I love Meijer, great, just doing it well in one area is terrific, but I'm curious about the scalability.
Great question. So what was really cool about this is we piloted with an independent grocer. So that's one store owner who owns one grocery store that serves a big population, a certain neighborhood in Detroit. And he was so excited about having something like this. So he's an independent grocer, and he saw value in this, and he would invest in this. And then all the way scaled up to Meijer, who sees this as a great opportunity for them to go out into the community to show that that Meijer cares about community. And when we do the numbers, even if they're giving $30 a month per person, which is a generous amount, that's 2 rides per month if you say $15 for the round trip, they're still going to be making $90 if they spend their entire SNAP benefit in the grocery store. So in terms of margins, you're really bringing in a significant amount that can boost that.